Syndey Sweeney is firing back at a Hollywood producer who said, this is her quote, the Hollywood producer, that she is not pretty and that she cannot act. Carol Baum, who is behind films like Father of the Bride, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Dead Ringers, made the comments during a panel discussion. Syndey's rep is hitting back, calling her remarks, quote unquote, truly shameful. Carol is now backtracking and told TMZ she regrets the comments and that dumping on an actor in public isn't usually her style. She also said she's been getting a ton of hate mail over this. Tori, you just made a face.
Yeah, well, I want to let people know Syndey Sweeney's received 2 Emmy nominations for Euphoria and The White Lotus. I thought she was particularly good in Euphoria. That scene in particular was just a crazy great scene, and I thought she portrayed it great.
And this producer had never seen either White Lotus or Euphoria.
Which is ridiculous. I don't care if the producer wants to talk like that in private. That's a very producer type of thing to say. But to say it in public, which she did on a panel, and then she also repeated it to students who were trying to come up, I don't know. I know Syndey Sweeney's rep said if that's the way you want to speak to your students and have them learn how a woman goes after another female actress, that's on you. But to me, it's a really bad look, and she's owed an apology. I also want to let you know similar kind of statements coming from one of the producers of her movie Immaculate. Syndey Sweeney said she's at least beautiful on the inside, which is weird to say. And then her former acting coach said, well, she doesn't have supermodel good looks. She is beautiful because of her inner depth, intellect, and compassion. I thought she's super duper hot.
But how many times have we heard Syndey Sweeney say that she herself has been a victim? I think right now she feels like she's blossoming, but she has said throughout junior high, high school, she always felt very odd looking. This is coming from Syndey Sweeney, not me. So she already has an insecurity with her own physicality.
Right. Well, I mean, she's a unique looking person. And I mean, I think that that's such an underrated thing because we always just have this basic baseline for what is good looking, what's a good looking person. But if you think about the people that stick out in our minds, just in cinema, whether it's Owen Wilson, Steve Buscemi, these people that have defining characteristics that for some reason draw our eye to them. Of all the people on the screen, they're people that have these interesting, unique looks that make us look at them and make us like them and love them. And some people may not find them attractive, but a whole bunch of people do. So, you know, that's one of the things that's going to happen when your face is on the screen. People are going to have an opinion. It was sad and really kind of weak sauce how she chose to equate her, that's not a word, but talk about this woman's looks. But I think Syndey Sweeney's got a lot of fans out there and understand this is par for the course, sadly, for this business.
Yeah, but I think it's also a teachable moment because this can, one, we're talking about Syndey Sweeney. Out of every movie not every movie that she's ever been in, but in a lot of roles that she's played, she's super identifiable, and she's super identifiable as she is as the girl who wasn't necessarily 100% confident about her unique look. And that should be a signal to other young girls that you don't have to fit into, although social media will tell you this because everyone starts to look the same, you don't have to fit into a mold in order to be beautiful. In fact, it's probably more to your advantage to just really empower yourself through who you actually are, because that's what's going to make you stand out.
Well said. Okay, so this kind of criticism isn't just for females in Hollywood. Succession star Brian Cox is slamming fellow actor Joaquin Phoenix. Speaking on a panel, Brian called Joaquin's performance in Napoleon truly terrible. He went on to say he would have played Napoleon a lot better than him. He also made fun of his name by saying his acting was Joaquin, as in wacky, Joaquin, as in wacky. Okay, so Jeff, should actors dump on each other in public? What do you think about this?
I just think it's interesting because it's really showing the power dynamics in Hollywood, right? Syndey Sweeney was here, and that producer, the gatekeeper, right, was up here. Syndey Sweeney surpassed her. She's teaching now. And you don't say that about other people. I wouldn't. You say, listen, I've worked with some big names, and I know people. This actress doesn't fit the mold for what I'm looking for. That's fine. That's what auditions are for. That producer, whoever's directing that, sees 100 people, and they want one person. Now, for these 2 actors, the 2 males, they are also gatekeepers because they no longer need studios. They want them. The power dynamic is different. So they could say whatever they want. These are 2 A-listers attacking each other. So it doesn't really matter. If you're hitting on someone that's up and coming and could stunt their career, You don't do that. You don't do that. But for Brian Cox and Joaquin Phoenix, who is at the top of his game and one of the best actors in Hollywood, I feel like you could throw a couple stones in there. I could do that better.
And
I like
that's
that.
very Brian Cox. He's got that kind of like, I'm gonna call it out, isn't it? He's got I think he's Irish. He's also dumped on Johnny Depp, calling him he's overblown. Quentin Tarantino he doesn't like. Ed Norton he finds annoying to work with. So right on par for Brian Cox. And
He don't like anybody.
He don't like anybody. But to be honest, I didn't think Napoleon was that great.
I haven't seen it.
Or
It wasn't
the
that
reviews
great.
I've just
It
heard
wasn't, and here's I don't want to dump on people either. I love Joaquin Phoenix, but I was expecting so much more because Ridley Scott directed it. Gladiator is my favorite movie. He was also in Gladiator, and it wasn't up to par for what the accents were off. It was a little
goofy.
but it's still Joaquin's the man.
He is the man.
Yeah.
I love Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
Okay, CBS will air the first new soap opera on TV in 25 years. The Gates will follow the lives of a wealthy black family they live in a posh gated community, of course. It's also the first black-led soap in 35 years since NBC's Generations. It starred the late Christophe St. John, but only lasted 2 seasons. All right, what do we think of this? I know that you grew up watching soaps
Yes, shout
with
out
your
Marcella.
grandma, right?
Yes. Oh, man.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Tell me.
Those intros take me back.
Yep.
But I'll just say this, obviously the first black-led soap only did 2 years, which 2 seasons of television nothing to sneeze at. But I do think there might be a difference this time, and that's that there's more black people on television. There used to just be like, here's either a whole network like the UPN or something. It was all kind of programming that was aimed at people of color. And now you don't, there's the Bob Loves Ayeshola show, and it's an interracial marriage. People would have been in the streets 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We're very normalized with how we see people on television, and I think this will not be as shocking as it was back when the first one ran. So maybe that had to walk for this one to run, Erica.
Well, yeah, a lot of people had to walk for us to run at this point.
Do you think this will be successful? Is this the right time?
I believe it will be. And my focus group of one, being, covering red carpets and stuff, it's always like so crazy because I'm like, oh, I'm interviewing celebrities, but they'll be like, I know you, my mom watches you every day. Or I know you, my grandma said that I should be on your show. So it's like, you think about how we came up and like the habitual watching of certain networks or certain shows with our grandparents or our parents, and that's still very much a thing. And shout out to DBL Nation.
Yeah.
And all the mamas and the grandmamas and the aunties.
Yes.